for Rockstars.
All right, James. Honestly, man, thank you for coming out. How are you?
Me.
Of course, of course. All right, well, let's cut straight to the chase. Let's start all the way back, because I know what's going on with Amazon, all the crazy stuff you got. But let's start all the way back when you were in middle school.
Sure.
What was your brain, man?
So I was the typical nerdy kid. I played a lot of video games, and I think that's what got me into computer science.
Let me guess. RuneScape?
RuneScape, yeah, you got that right.
Man.
So I remember playing that game and thinking, the controls seem very basic. How can I automate this? What if I could have the mouse click for me? And so that's where I got into programming, and I built a few scripts to automate some tasks in the game, some bots. I built a few basic bots so that they'd run overnight, and that got me hooked. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So right there, this is middle school, right, if I'm guessing?
Yeah.
This is middle school, and you're already pretty sure of what you want to do. And at this point, you're thinking about going to college, or what's happening? What is happening inside your brain?
I don't think college was on my mind at that point, because it's middle school. But I knew that I knew that I had a passion for software, for programming. It may not have been as clear at that point. I didn't know there was a whole industry around software. Software engineering was a career path.
Right. All right. So let's hover over this whole entrepreneurship thing. You're in middle school, maybe transitioning to high school. Maybe you're in high school. Are you thinking about business at all? Starting your own thing, trying something out? Like, what's happening in that category?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a very entrepreneurial mindset from a young age. My family was very entrepreneurial. I remember I think as I transitioned to junior high, I built a tool that could shut down computers on our network. It's a very relaxed network.
That's crazy. Hacking from an early age, huh?
And then I sold that for $5 a piece. And I remember I got pulled into the superintendent's office, and I walked in, and there was the IT administrator, our school resource officer, which, as a junior high kid, is just a cop, basically. You see a cop as you walk into the office. My vice principal, my principal, and they had this code printed out on a sheet. They saw the code, and they asked what it was. The IT administrator didn't know what it was, and so they called my parents.
Oh, snap.
End of the day, I come home, and they're super proud of me. So
that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Cool.
See, that's very important. I'm a father now, so these things you got to really look out for with kids and whatnot. You got to make sure that you motivate them, because you are their role models. So that's very important. That's awesome, man. So, okay. I know you're in the whole Amazon business right now.
Yep.
So are we high school is when you're kind of getting into that, or is that more of while you were in college?
While I was in college, yeah, I dabbled in a few startups. I worked on a few. None ever took off. And then I got into. I was looking into predictable business models I can get into, and Amazon got me. I looked into Amazon. I saw it was very, very viable. I looked into different business models within Amazon selling to see which fit me best. There's private label, OARA, wholesale. I got into wholesale because it was very predictable. It's a predictable business model, low margins, high volume. I got into it. I thought, I could build some software to automate a lot of this work, to automate forecasting.
That's great. Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. But Amazon, man, literally every single person I know wants to sell on Amazon. Is it really that big?
Oh yeah, online retail is blowing up. Amazon's blowing up. They're at the top of the game right now, and so selling on Amazon is a very viable business model.
All right, so to get on Amazon, all right, what are we talking about? Obviously, inventory, right?
Yeah.
You got to stock up on that stuff. Give us just the basics. Give us the little steps that you personally went through, and then obviously talk about the money, because you need money to get into business, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. It's specifically wholesale. It's very capital intensive.
Mm-hmm.
But to get into wholesale, I remember I knew. So, any business like CVS. So where do they get their products from? They get them from big accounts, like say. Toothbrushes. They have to open an account with Colgate or Procter and Gamble. And so I thought, okay, there may be smaller brands I can work with, because these larger brands, say Nike, so you want to wholesale Nike shoes or resell Nike shoes on Amazon.
Right.
Their account, you need at least a 250K opening order to sell Nike, to even open an account with Nike. So I thought, let me go after smaller brands, smaller, less well-known brands, where the opening order may be in the range of $500 to $1,000. And so I came into it with maybe $5,000 that I had saved up in capital. And I opened a few accounts. I saw that I could turn capital over very quickly, and it was very predictable. I had a few tools that I used that would show me that sales estimates for these products that I was looking to sell. So I knew going into any product how well it would sell, how likely I was to turn that inventory over. And that's how I got started.
That's amazing. That really is. Still doesn't connect to you as a software engineer, right? Not yet.
No.
Okay, so you're selling on Amazon while you're in college, and you're in college. What are you thinking as far as when you get out, when you graduate? Are you out and trying to find a job working for some big corporation, or are you like, no, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to work for myself?
I've always had the tendency to want to work for myself, and so that's why I was looking for a business model like Amazon, selling on Amazon, that I knew I could eventually transition to building software for. Because I built a lot of the software that we use in-house, like for day-to-day warehouse operations, inventory management, price management, like a repricing. And so I thought, wow, I could take this and sell it for a monthly fee, a monthly subscription. And that's actually a business model that's doing very well right now.
That's the business to be in. Oh, yeah,
it's called SaaS, software as a service.
And so, so obviously you got to that because of you as an Amazon seller. But while you're in college, because I'm hearing Instagram, Facebook, anywhere you go, these guys, they're like, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't need college for that. You have the opposite here. You're going to be working for yourself, but you're in college. So what do you have to say to people that are, kind of scratching college out of the whole picture in general?
A lot of people like going to college, or their parents push them into college, their high schools push them into college, and they don't really know what they want to do going in. I can't speak for that as well, because I knew exactly what I wanted to do going in, and that's, I'm in the minority. Most don't. They say the average college student switches paths or majors around 6 times over the course of their undergraduate career. So, I think you should know what you want to do going into it. You should know what you want to major in, let's say. I think I agree with the sentiment that it's a little silly to go into college undeclared and kind of discover what you want to do a year in. I don't know. Maybe it's best to take a gap year.
But we have people hanging out on social media all the time, and they're influenced by people like, let's say, Gary Vee, right? And this guy bashes college like there's no tomorrow. But then we need doctors. We need people that you can't really go on YouTube and teach yourself how to do. And so are we here with this whole entrepreneurial era? Are we discouraging these people from going to college, or we have an example like you that, hey, I'm working for myself, but I did go to college because the whole AI, because I know you're focused in AI when it comes to programming and things like that. Yep. You can't learn that anywhere, can you?
Honestly, you can. But I think, they give you a very clear path, and it is what you make of it, right? So they give you a clear path. So I concentrated in artificial intelligence,
right,
within computer science. And, it is what you make of it. You have access to these top researchers, these professors. So no, I think it's useful.
Would you say you're networking while you're in college in this? Or?
Absolutely. I think that may be 75% of the reason why you go to college. It's all the networking opportunities that are presented to you, the network that you build, and that's you got to get out there when you're in college. You can't just sit in your dorm. You've got to network with the people around you.
For sure. Well, it's crazy what you did here. So let's talk a little bit about the actual tools that you used and built for Amazon and what you learned from college that you kind of applied towards that. So the first thing I see on your shirt is VenDrive.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that whole tool. I know it, but tell our audience.
Sure. So VenDrive is an Amazon software company. We built that spun off from the tools that I built in-house for my own wholesale Amazon business. And so the flagship product is a CRM. that allows you to manage your suppliers. So a big part of wholesale is constantly finding more and more products, more and more brands to open wholesale accounts with. And so to do that, they typically go through the same pipeline. Mm-hmm. So it's really easy to miss out on some brands because you forget to follow up with them.
So hold up a bit.
Yep.
Every single Amazon seller here has a supplier. That's the only way you sell on Amazon. Because I hear stories, these people going out to retail trying to flip stuff they buy in stores. How does this connect here? Is this only towards a certain category of Amazon sellers, or literally any Amazon seller can use this?
Absolutely. So it's really only applicable to wholesale and private label. The top three, or the three main models of selling on Amazon are RAOA, which is retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, which is what you're saying, where you go into a retail store and you find these arbitrage opportunities, meaning there's a difference in what you buy the product for and what it sells for minus the fees that Amazon takes away. And so long as that difference is positive, it's a net positive, you profit. So that's called retail arbitrage. You can do the same thing for online, in online stores. It's called online arbitrage. They're typically grouped in the same category. It's not as scalable. You find one-off products. You don't have a replenishable source of that product. So, but people do find ways to scale that. Like there are people
but you're better off with wholesale, right?
Yeah, and the next step, the next obvious step, is either private label or wholesale.
Okay.
Wholesale is a more predictable model. You find replenishable product sources. So you open an account with, say, like Procter & Gamble, let's say, and you're able to reorder from them when your inventory sells out or as it's about to sell out. And that's where software like Restock or inventory forecasting comes into play. And
okay, so Event Drive, I'm sure you got competition in this field.
Yeah, so there are a few competitors in our space. We built a CRM that fits a very specific vertical of Amazon sellers, and as of now, it's Amazon wholesale resellers. So, and there are competitors in the space, like say HubSpot, say Salesforce, if you want to go that far, Pipedrive, and these are more general CRM systems. So we built a very specific CRM, and it gives you more, it has product analytics, so you can view the sales rank and price history of products. There's an inbuilt or built-in profit calculator that takes into account Amazon FBA fees, Amazon referral commission, and where you can connect products to the sellers being the leads.
Pretty sweet. CRM. Pretty sweet, right? Okay, so you got the software, you built it. It's got some stuff that are better than your competition, but how do you get the customers? What's your main as an entrepreneur? Was that a struggle, or is it you kind of already had a path? How did you market this thing?
So I started with an Instagram. I was documenting. I was actually motivated to do this by another big seller, an 8-figure seller. Watch Me Amazon on Instagram. And so he was documenting his day-to-day operations, the wholesale Amazon seller. And he really showed a lot of these other small-time sellers like the potential that selling on Amazon had. The guy built up an 8-figure company, and he built like SOPs to scale, standard operating procedures. And so he'll release them occasionally. And so I started my own Instagram. It was Prime Arbitrage at the time. It doesn't exist anymore. It was changed to a company account. And I documented my day-to-day warehouse operations, and I built up a following. I think I got to a couple hundred followers, but they're all very specific.
And are these all organic, or did you actually put some money into?
That was organic, and I didn't put much effort into it. I just liked the idea of documenting. I took that from Gary Vee. And then I built up this kind of loyal following of Amazon sellers that liked what I was doing. They were in a very similar industry, and then I thought. I saw a lot of these Facebook groups. I saw like millennial entrepreneur community, a lot of these massive groups are very general. You have people that are trying to sell courses, people that are trying to sell affiliate marketing.
Facebook group.
Yeah, so then I created my own Facebook group. And at the time it was, a couple, maybe 50 people for the first month. It was called Amazon FBA Wholesale. And so it was just a group of wholesale sellers on Amazon where we could ask each other questions. I would post my updates. I took it as an opportunity for myself to get my questions answered.
For sure.
I figured I can get higher level sellers in there that I could, network with. And eventually, so that started growing. I brought on who is someone who's now my one of my co-founders, Dylan Carter, to help manage the group. And within a year, I think it was a little over a year later, the wholesale model has been taking off. So it's gotten a lot more interest. And as of today, we're at around 4,900, close to 5,000 members in that Facebook group. That's where that's our market. That group is who we promote to. Like, we provide a lot of value. We put out a lot of content onto our blog. We now have our own podcast. And so, they see that and they take advantage of Vendrive, the CRM.
All right. So how far into this where you said, all right, let's build Aura?
Yeah. So even in the early days, so one of the things, I did have my own CRM system that spun off into Vendrive CRM. And I did have a very basic repricer that I used. I didn't like the existing solutions out there. There are a few tools out there that we compete with now.
And what is it about them that you didn't like? Because first, tell us what a repricer does to just the general public.
Sure. So a repricer is a price management tool. What it does is it monitors all of your listings. Let's say on Amazon, for example, in this case, because our repricer focuses on Amazon at the moment. It'll look through any change to that listing, to any one of your listings. Any of the competitors may make a price change, and it'll adjust your price accordingly, so that you're like competitive and you get the buy box. And so what the buy box is on Amazon is it's when you go to shop on Amazon, you try to find any product. On the right side, you're going to see a link that says buy now.
Yeah.
Now, when you click on that, as a customer, the experience is meant to be very streamlined. It seems like you're buying from Amazon. It's a one-click add to cart function. But in reality, there may be up to 10 sellers on that listing, 20 sellers on that listing. Yeah. And now, when you click buy now, it selects the most competitive offer, and you buy it from that most competitive seller.
And is that always the price, or?
So the most significant factor that goes into determining who is in that buy box is price. There are a few other parameters that Amazon takes into account, such as feedback, whether or not you're back ordered, what's your, in which warehouse is that product located? Is it closest to the customer? If it is, that seller is most likely to get the buy box. But price has, say, 75% or 80% of the weight.
Now, is everyone using a repricer? Because it almost sounds like you can't go with that one.
You'd be surprised, right? So there are a lot of people making use of a repricer. The market's getting larger and larger.
Right.
But most people do not use a repricer.
That's crazy. So this is not just getting in the buy box and getting you more sales. This is like eliminating a ton of work that you'd manually do.
Exactly.
So that's insane. Okay. So the thing that happens behind the scene, like I can only imagine with any software, like how crazy was this project?
It's very, very, very complex architecture. A lot of different microservices running around the clock to check on your listings and we basically have a fire hose of data that Amazon sends us. Over thousands of price changes per minute that we get from across all the different users that we have to then process, calculate a new price for, and then send that off to Amazon. And keep track of that too, because there are errors along the way. And so we have to fix these errors. And
that's insane. For sure, I wish you a ton of success with this. And that's just crazy what you've been able to do. So you got your Amazon business running, you're selling on Amazon. You got Vendrive, that's a CRM for wholesale. And now you got this repricer that just sounds like a rocket launcher for any Amazon seller. What's the next thing? Are you thinking that far? Because it sounds like you're not stopping. Yeah,
so these are small projects. Both Aura and Vendrive CRM are under our Vendrive umbrella. But we're trying to work on, I have plans for a flagship product because I've worked with a lot of these wholesale brands. And the idea is to create a tool that better connects these vendors or these suppliers, these brand owners, to the modern day retailer, the modern day online retailer. We're moving towards online retail, and we're moving away from brick and mortar retail. So these are the new, CVS, like eTails is the new CVS. eTails is a massive online seller on Amazon. And so for a lot of these brands, it's very hard to keep up with who's selling their product across the e-commerce landscape. You know, you've got Walmart, Jet, eBay, Amazon, and so they don't know where their products are being sold, whether or not they're being sold below the minimum advertisable price. And so the reorder process is very tricky. You know, I've experience placing a ton of reorders with a ton of suppliers, and I've seen everything from having to fax them order forms to having to place orders on this, insecure HTTP website, this portal, to having to call to place a reorder, to emailing back and forth. And it's very different. Each supplier has a different process, and now we're trying to standardize that and build a new standard for the relationship between the online seller and these big brands.
That's insane. So, like, what I hear from this is just a ton of work behind scenes, a ton of coding, So just tell me, let's just go back for you as a person. I mean, after all, you are a human being. How does your typical day look like? How do you manage time? What kind of stuff you use? Like, how do you make all this possible?
It's scheduling comes into play. Task lists. I make religious use of Workflowy, which is basically a very simple tool. It's actually used by the founders of Slack.
All right, I gotta take notes here. Go on.
So this is used by the founders of Slack to create Slack. It's used by the guys behind Twitter. It's a very simple tool that just allows you to have infinitely nested lists. So you can basically map out your mind, and that helps me because I can better organize what's going on in my head, like what I want to do next, so I can prioritize tasks. And that's how I manage my tasks or my to-dos.
All right, so you got management under control, but you still need motivation. Where does that come from? What motivates you to do all this?
I pride myself on good work ethic, but I think what drives me is knowing that I have impact, knowing that I can impact a lot of the world, I guess.
That's crazy.
As we grow with Vendrive, online retail.
And that's awesome because, I mean, most people I meet, or the general umbrella that sometimes is unfortunate, but all these entrepreneurs, they just want to make a lot of money. They want a fast car. They want this. They want that. They don't really have a solid plan of what they want to do or offer. What do you have to say to these folks that pretty much they just want to categorize themselves as an entrepreneur to make a lot of money? Is that fine?
No, I mean, as with any startup, you're going to have, periods of like downtime or times where everything is, nothing seems to be going well. And so that's when, the passion comes into play, and you've got to be passionate about what you're working on. If you're not passionate about it, you're not going to want to keep working on it. Yeah,
for sure. So these guys, what do you recommend? Maybe there's a book to read. What kind of, thing can you throw out there?
So I'd recommend, there are two books I recommend are, The Lean Startup. I think that's great. It teaches you to focus on, learning for your startup, and 0 to 1.
That's for sure. Yeah, that's the book. For me personally, because to me, I always had this kind of like a plan that as an entrepreneur, you're going to get that cash flow, but at the end, I want to invest it into something. I want to create a life where I don't want to be dependent on this, and that. What do you have to say to folks that are entrepreneurs? Maybe they don't have an idea just yet. Do you want them to go out and make some money or invest into education? What is the most critical thing one entrepreneur can do listening to us right now? That's not necessarily indecisive, but at the same time, they're not in something that they're already making money from.
Yeah. I think cash flow is important. I mean, as with starting any business, you can't do it without money. Build up some capital, save up, a couple grand to start a business, and just put the work in. Most people don't put the work in. That's crazy. So let's talk about money a little bit. Young people I know that make any money love to spend. Yeah.
And 5 years down the road, they had salaries that were pretty good, but then you look back, none of it is saved. Give me a little bit, just tips as far as money management. What kind of things would you cut out if you're young? What kind of things that maybe looking back you'd wish you didn't do?
Yeah.
And just tips in general regarding money.
Well, number one tip, I guess, and this should be obvious. It's really easy in theory, but in practice, it's very hard to follow. just spend less than you make, right? Most people get so accustomed to credit cards, and it's really hard to get a good picture on what you do make at the end of the day, after all your interest, fees, and then you end up spending more, and you get into this this never-ending cycle of debt. But yeah, spend less than you make.
Yeah. So James, I'm just hearing all this from you. You're in college. Not only were you a student at one point, you were a businessman while a student at one point. Obviously, you're an entrepreneur. You got 3 successful things going on. What is, let's say, looking 5 years down the road, and let's say all of these take off. Let's say you make a ton of money. What's the next craziest thing that even you yourself don't fully believe in but want to happen? Throw it out there, James.
So this may sound bizarre, but CubeSat launchers. So, CubeSats are basically these, it's this a class of satellites that are 3 kilograms or less, and they're typically used by or sent off, launched into orbit or low Earth orbit by universities, research institutions. And they just collect some data, and transmit it back to Earth. And I think space exploration is the next big thing. I think that's super neat. But yeah, if I could create like CubeSat launchers, that would be awesome. I know Electron's doing that right now. They're based in the US or in California. They have a launch site in New Zealand. And so I'd love to build a CubeSat launcher that's reusable.
Man, that's insane. Your ideas are really off the charts. So I can guess, but you probably have some mentors or people that you look up to. Name a few.
Yeah, people that I look up to. I look up to Gary Vee, his work ethic, but above all, Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Yeah, I was just gonna say, you're talking about space. Elon's gonna be on that list. So you got this big plan, you got this seems like a long term, and then you got that short term plan, right? But right now your daily thing is, you're still grinding, I'm sure, with coding and managing all these businesses. But what kind of team do you have supporting you with all this? Because I know a ton of people that, they have too many people that do everything, and they kind of have that idea, they expect everything to be done for them. And then I know a bunch of people that try to do everything on their own, and they got no one, but they can't really get anywhere. So how does your typical team look like? And, as far as employees or freelancers that you hire, or however, like, give us some tips in a form of, using yourself as an example.
Sure. So over at VentDrive, we have a team of, we have a few freelancers. I have another developer that works alongside me. I focus a lot of my time on engineering. So, 80% of my time goes towards engineering. I do a lot of the software development for VentDrive. I have another engineer that works alongside me. We have a guy that helps with our content. My co-founder, Dylan, he does all of our content marketing, or most of our content marketing. He heads the podcast. We have another team member that edits our podcast, any audio material that we put out there. Artem, we have him or you that manages our marketing, our paid advertising, a lot of our content marketing, our SEO primarily. And then for Berkshire, I have a few on-call contractors, basically 1099 contractors. No one's a full-time employee there. And anytime a shipment comes in, I can have someone there. I can see whose schedule has availability for that shipment and then so they receive that shipment, then they prep and pack it to send back out to Amazon. So that's kind of a streamlined business of mine.
Man, I'm just listening here, James, and just looking at how many things you've accomplished, even starting from the whole thing you did in school, college, then you got these 3 businesses. I got to ask, man, how old are you?
I'm 23.
You are 23 years old. I know for a fact there's a ton of people your age right now. Maybe they already gave up on a ton of stuff. But what is one thing you got to tell them that you absolutely have to right now so they don't give up? They go back and they just start it up again.
Find something that you're passionate about. Something that, you could see yourself working on for the next 5 years. Something that, gets you up in the morning. and just work on that. Put the work in, especially as you're young. You have very little risk. You have very little to lose. You don't have kids yet. Some of you may have kids. You don't have any mortgage to pay off, assuming you don't. No big car loan. So you've got very little to risk. So that's when you should jump in and give it your all.
That is awesome. Well, James, let me just touch base a little bit of all these things that we just talked about. Shout out to that group, Amazon FBA Wholesale Group on Facebook. I'm part of that, and I can just tell every single person out there that if you're remotely connected to selling on Amazon, that's one group that you can definitely benefit from. Vendrive is your CRM for wholesalers, a powerful tool, and then Aura is where it's at. Aura is the repricer. And what are the websites for all these? If I'm just listening to this here, where do I find you?
So you can find the group is linked to on our company site, vendrive.com, as the shirt says. Our repricer is goaura.com. And the group is in the Vendrive site.
Perfect. And if you're not on the website, Facebook, Amazon FBA.
Yeah.
That's awesome, James. Hey, man, thank you so much for coming out. Go back to that grind. What's your typical Monday going to look like? We're about to be there.
So planning the day today for tomorrow, jumping into a stand-up with a team, making sure everyone's on track, no one's blocked, and just jumping right in.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. I wish you luck with everything, especially Vendrive, Aura, but your life, man. Live it up.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Entrepreneur Rockstars.